The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.
A very good evening and to this week's edition of the Black and White Show on Newcastle Fans TV and Nova Radio Northeast if you're listening on Sunday evening, and on the channel Dave if you're watching this in 27 years' time. So my name is Rob Spurrell, and I'm joined by the Lee Lawler and Aisha Acton. And tonight we will be discussing the latest on the Takeover news. Later on, we will be talking about Mauricio Pochettino and the potential links to the manager's job at St. James's Park. We will conclude tonight's show later on, talking about the major leagues in Europe ending their season. Some have plans to return, though, in just a matter of weeks' time. So, yes, it has been another week of lockdown. How have you been, Lee and Aisha?
Isha, you can go first then.
Yeah, very good, thanks. Good. Just ferociously updating my browser for Takeover updates with nothing else to focus on in lockdown. So I'm going a bit crazy, but otherwise good.
I've been all right.
Pretty much refresh,
right?
refresh
Oh
on my computer, looking for something new. But yes, it's been that and pretty much Netflix and also some other work along the way. And Lee, how about you? You've still been working at Sky as well?
Yeah, I'm working from home. Working from home now, so it's not as bad. So that made us a lot more happier. So yeah, grafting away, just keeping an eye on Twitter, keeping an eye on Facebook. Let's see some hashtag cans going, but fortunately they're in the freezer at the minute on ice.
Yeah, I went to the shop, I think it was on Sunday or Saturday. I went to get a top-up of J2Os and Pepsi Max. And I'm refusing to touch them before hashtag cans. But I've nearly, I haven't got any other drinks left in the house. But I'm going to have to go into that secret stash. Unless I buy some more, and that it means queuing up at Asda for the next hour. But yes, let's move on to the good stuff, shall we? Today, 1st of May, and yet we still have to say the words potential takeover. Last week, there were a few reports regarding the Saudi Arabia's human rights record, despite those issues being in existence for many years. The UK has deals with the country, and their leaders had several meetings with Her Majesty the Queen. Anthony Joshua had that rematch against Ruiz Jr. back in December. The list goes on. But could it be that this bad publicity is standing in the way of the deal getting completed, Lee?
I'm still optimistic. I still think, look, a few weeks ago when I was on this actual show and I was saying I wasn't too very keen on it. A few weeks back, I was like 20 in favour, and then I'm like, I was 50-50. Now I'm still optimistic. I'm probably 75 against 25. I'm still optimistic. I think you're all right. I think there is a couple of things that are holding up. There is reports, obviously, the BeIN Sports one is holding it up because they're just covering the checks on that. Speculation, but I'm still optimistic about it. And I still, if this doesn't happen now, Rob, it won't ever happen in a long, long time. This is the most serious it's ever been. We've got Saudi royal families and sports ministers now following the club on Twitter. If this doesn't happen, Rob, it will never will.
And Aisha, sort of on that point, is this the best opportunity for Newcastle to be taken over, considering we're not going to be seeing any football for the next several weeks?
Yeah, definitely. And like Lee said, when we were talking about this like a few weeks back, or even Lee, do you remember before that Norwich game, you and I actually had a takeover Skype video update for the channel? And that was, when was that? That was months ago. Yeah,
I don't even know what day. I don't even know what day of the week it is, man.
Yeah, I'm losing track too. But I just remember at that time, me being cautiously optimistic, but this time it's a whole nother feeling. And that's not only because it's reached this stage, it just seemed like there was a lot more substance to rumours and the media attention that we were getting over it. And now it's reached this stage of, they say, like the final hurdle, the Premier League test. And that test, essentially, if we just remind ourselves that although there is a lot of negative media attention surrounding the takeover, that test is relatively limited to just judging, how fit that individual is to own the club. And it measures whether owners meet standards greater than those required by law in order to protect football's reputation. Now, the human rights protesters, they'll say that they've been saying that the owners fall short of these standards. And then if we look at like other news reports we've seen, like the former Premier League chairman, he commented on that test and he said that it comes down to two things. And the first thing is that has the owner committed any of the crimes to say that they cannot own a club? And the second thing is finances. So I'm not as concerned as I was about the negative media attention around the takeover in terms of things progressing, because that test in itself is quite limited and it doesn't stretch necessarily into political matters.
And of course, we want to know what you think as well. So get commenting on that live stream and we'll hopefully read some of your comments out. Like we just saw there, Peter Robson saying that he's got a crate hidden away in the shed in readiness. Peter, I really hope that stuff doesn't go out of date before you can legitimately open it.
Might be a bit warm.
But, yeah, maybe, especially this time of year. Sheds are getting warmer nowadays. But yes, like what you said about media attention, Aisha, there's a lot more media attention on this deal, that's for sure. But do you think that could just be, at the moment, there's nothing else to talk about in terms of sport?
I don't think so. I mean, if we're talking about like right now, we are in lockdown. Social media, I feel like since the last time Newcastle changed hands, like social media plays a huge part in the process that's happening right now. The hysteria, the daily updates, the bickering between journalists. And I think, yes, you're right. We are in a state of like heightened sort of attention and, everyone's at home, everyone's checking updates, everyone wants to know what's going on with the news. But those allegations in itself do warrant a lot of concern. And I can't just dismiss what is being discussed in terms of the political things and, the amnesty issues and the protests that are going on, because they're worthy of concern, like admittedly, as a fan. And I don't think any fan can sort of brush that aside and dismiss the magnitude of what is being discussed. But at the same time, it doesn't help that we're all home. We need to be provided with constant content and stories and reports. And that does that does come up under that.
Constant content, regards to the situation. You get that here on Newcastle Fans TV. What other YouTube channel gets you this sort of stuff? I just realised that picture of Amanda that picture of Amanda Staveley that you just put up there, Lee. I just realised, give me some bigger glasses, and you've got Amanda Staveley right here on this live stream talking right now.
Right. I'm not going to agree with that, Rob. Sorry. I think Amanda Staveley's a much better looking person. Sorry, Rob.
Yeah. I can't say I agree. But yes, moving on. So Qatar-based broadcaster, like you mentioned earlier, the BeIN Sports. Now, they have, in the past week, made their intentions known as to why they believe the deal should be blocked. And now, away from football, a bit of context is that Qatar and Saudi Arabia, as nations, as states, are in a diplomatic conflict with each other at the moment. They have had a strained relationship since the start of the Arab Spring. Has this takeover been politicised too much, Lee?
I think so, but I can understand some of the human rights with the Saudis. Look, you can't escape it. It's headline news across the world. But I think Newcastle fans, I think it is being played on. I do think it's being played on, because I think what's more important for Newcastle fans is to get Mike Ashley out first. And I think if you had someone who didn't spend much money but communicated with the fans a lot more, I think most Newcastle fans will be pretty happy with that. The fact that we've got a state, and we've seen obviously Miguel Delaney tweet about it quite a lot the last couple of days. saying that states shouldn't own a football clubs. Well, that changed when Manchester City were bought out 10 years ago, whatever it was. That changed when Sheffield United, when the other Saudi, I'm sure he's in some sort of family, a distant cousin of some sort. That all changed now. You look at
also owned by a state as well.
Yeah, PSG. So that's all changed now. And how can you stop that? Because you cannot. Yes, I get the human rights side of things is worrying, but I think that's more documented over the Far East than it is so much here. It's picking up a lot of traffic here because it's coming from probably the royal family. If it was a Saudi business or something that wasn't really in the headlines, we wouldn't hear about it, Rob. We wouldn't.
Mm. And Aisha, has this been more about why a state shouldn't buy a club, or it happens to be a state that has a bad human rights record?
Yeah, I don't think it's related to a state owning a club. I think it's solely the political agenda that's being questioned here. And if we are talking about Delaney in particular, it's just a shame. Like today, I'm sure a lot of Newcastle fans have been on Twitter today. If you see, it's just like the storm against Delaney and his remarks, which quite frankly are just, I mean, for cans, like if we're just talking about hashtag cans, like that shouldn't be a political agenda. Like that was never intended. We, as Newcastle fans, we do not support state murder because we want to celebrate new ownership coming on board for our club, which we've been through years and years and years of disappointing failures, year after year, month after month of transfer rumours. Things will change, things don't change, the ups and downs. And cans should never have been pulled into this political agenda. And it's a shame that it has been, because we are going through a tough time as a nation, globally, even with the pandemic, and us Newcastle fans in particular. If this is the only thing, sort of positive thing we're focusing on day to day these days, and for that to be sort of like us being dragged into this sort of political situation, and Delaney is, you know,
it's getting a bit tiring though, isn't it, Isha? It's tiring.
It is. It's like, give us a break. Like, give us a break. This is the one positive thing we can cling on to right now as Newcastle fans. And the remarks he's been making is sort of tarnishing us with a brush, saying, you know, well, this is what you stand for. No, actually, it's nothing to do with the political, you know, questions that are coming into play with the takeover. It's nothing to do with that. If anything, we want new owners to be questioned for certain things. We are concerned about the human rights issues, of course, even the BeIN Sports issue. We're not pushing that all aside just for the sake of more money coming into the club. It's way more than that. We're humans after all. But I don't think it's fair that, you know, we're being pulled into this as fans.
I think what's also, Robin, you might touch upon, is that BeIN Sports have got a little bit of a nerve, haven't they? Because if they're calling out the Saudis, and BeIN Sports took the Saudis to court and lost in a French court, but also lost in a high court in London. And the Saudis went away free because of the alleged legal streaming of Premier League games. They were found not guilty. So, and then we've just learned the last few days that BeIN Sports are going to be trialed in, is it Switzerland? That was seen. So it's like, it seems to be like the two, like the BeIN Sports are rivals against the Saudis, and they're just trying to win points off each other. And why Richard Keys is getting involved in it, it's just to try and stay relevant, in my opinion.
Well, a comment was from Gary Scott. He says that BeIN Sports, Qatar-based BeIN Sports, are scared about losing their rights. And that could be arguably so on the basis that I'm not sure. I've been trying to look into this all afternoon, but it could be illegal for Qatar to broadcast any Saudi Arabian content on any of their channels. We see it particularly with Israel at the moment. It's illegal to broadcast any Israeli content on Lebanese television. It's why they can't compete in the Eurovision Song Contest, if you were wondering. But yes,
Rob's a big fan.
We're not sure, but if that is the case, of course, it might become illegal for BeIN Sports to actually broadcast the Premier League. That could well be the case in the future. Other comments coming in. Thank you very much, Paul Jackson. 50 years of misery at Newcastle United Football Club, and it's not going to get any better whilst Mike Ashley is still at the club, that is for sure. But hopefully 50 years of misery might be able to get the turnaround sooner the better. And Liam says, keep politics out of football. It's the same with Eurovision. Keep politics out of it. But no, Russia still gives 12 points to Ukraine. But yes, keep your comments in.
Wow, you really are you're a super fan. I never realised.
I am actually, yeah. It's a long story, but I'll keep it out here. It's got nothing to do with Newcastle, unfortunately. But yes, we've seen bookies. Moving on now to a little aspect of this. We've seen bookies report things like who will be the next manager at Newcastle, and something that you'll touch upon later in the show with Sam. We saw it last summer as well. I mean, who's going to be the new manager after Rafa left? And there were some big names attached to it in the hope that this takeover would happen, like Mourinho, for example. Does this sort of thing contribute to what might become false hope in the future, Aisha?
What exactly are you asking? Sorry, do these rumours... Do you mean?
Do these bookies say, "Oh, we're attached to a big name"? Does this get our hopes up, only for them to be slashed at the end of the day?
I think it depends how you take all the rumours. And even last week when we were discussing like Cavani and like, you know, Grealish, like all of these rumours, like I think if we stay grounded and wise as Newcastle fans, with taking everything with a pinch of salt, there's only so much you can be disappointed. And if anything, just take it as a bit of excitement right now, because if this is the final hurdle we're on and we just need these little, you know, rumours to sort of make it a bit more real and make us consider that, oh, actually this will be the position we'll be in if it all goes ahead, then fine. And I'm not taking anything too seriously, but there have been some rumours that do have a bit of substance, and there have been some rumours that do have confirmations, like whether that's Vidal we're talking about, because the Spanish publication confirms that he'd definitely be interested if Allegri came on board. So there are rumours which, there's no smoke without fire, I feel. And yeah, it's all fun and games to put up bookies odds on who's going to come on board and whatever. But I mean, me personally, I'm taking it with a pinch of salt. And if anything, the more serious thing, rumours or talking points, I'm considering the reality of it, because we have reached that stage where we can consider some of these rumours, it may progress into something, and that's something we need to think about as Newcastle fans, into how it will fit into our new strategy and the new chapter.
So yeah, we've been here lots of times before under Mike Ashley, and still, I mean, despite having the club up for sale for a good 2.5 years now, we are still in this situation where he is still at the club. But Lee, do you just so we've over the time we've learned to take things with a pinch of salt. But Lee, can you not help but get excited when these sort of stories come about?
History tells you there's so many fakes out there, but like I said earlier on, Rob, is that this one has a bit more genuine. It does, because we're seeing it so far advanced now. You've got Sky's reporting on it. You've seen legal paperwork. You've got, as I mentioned, Saudi sports ministers following the club. Another one did today, who's verified. So this has definitely got a lot more behind the scenes happening. My only worry is the final hurdle, which we're at now. It seems we're almost there. We're like, can we get there? It's been 3 weeks now since the Premier League have done the checks. If something is holding it up, if it is the BeIN Sports, or if it is the human rights that they have to investigate, let's wait. If it takes another week for the takeover to happen, trust me, we've waited 13 years. I'm more than happy to wait another week. But I think it has got legs, and I'm still optimistic it will happen.
What are your knowledge on these Premier League checks, Lee, in terms of how long they're supposed to take? Because I don't ever recall any takeover being this long in the process of Premier League checks before. I mean,
look, it's obviously with the Premier League, it'll probably be a little bit delayed, because obviously a lot of people are working from home because of COVID-19 at the moment, which cannot really be helped if you're at home. who's doing what. Look, your guess is as good as mine, Robert. I'm not the expert, yeah. Manchester City's big takeover was just boom. It was announced. That was done over 2 or 3 days. Where this one's seems to be 3 to 4 weeks, and we've obviously seen a director appointed on the the company's houses the other day as well. So fingers crossed it gets through. We're optimistic.
And moving on, so we saw today on an argument over Twitter between Miguel Delaney, the chief football writer for The Independent, and friend of the channel Chris Waugh of The Athletic, Luke Edwards from the Daily Telegraph, also disagreed with Delaney. Delaney feels strongly against Saudi involvement at the club, and Waugh acknowledges those views, but explains that there is a nuance to how fans are feeling, and there being a distinction between the two. Aisha, what do you make of this?
Yeah, exactly what I was just saying. Like, I think it needs to be a separate conversation. I think that distinction does need to be made for the respect of Newcastle fans, because we're not here to support any human rights issues that are being raised. We do want new owners to be put under the spotlight for these sort of like concerning matters and political issues, but at the same time, forgive us for getting a bit excited at a potential takeover, and we shouldn't be dragged into that, and we shouldn't be labelled, we shouldn't be come under that umbrella that Delaney is putting us fans under, because that's not fair, and we don't represent a fan base that, the majority of us are just decent, nice human beings. We're not here to get involved in a political, storm and turmoil. It's not fair. So exactly what I said before, I don't think it's fair. And I think that distinction needs to be made, that this takeover is all about who we want out of the club. That's our main concern. That's our number one priority. We want to get this person out of the club. We want to start a new chapter. Everything else surrounding that isn't related to why we're excited. We're excited to get people out of the club, full stop.
There's some comments coming in. Mark Shafto believes that the Premier League are busy with Project Restart, and Jedi says Premier League want due diligence just to make sure that they get a suitable owner into the club. Man City weren't desperately checking company's house every day, so went under the radar, plus no offense, but their fan base aren't as invested in the club as we are. Ooh. Yeah, that is arguably true. It's a controversial view, but
at least we can fill the stadium.
Yeah, I remember September in 2018 when we went there, and I went on a bit of a rant, didn't I, in front of you?
Yes, you did. You didn't like how Manchester City had no history and they were bought. Well, guess what, Rob? That might come back and bite you in the backside later on.
Maybe, but well, I was more referring to the idea that they think that they're a big boy just because they've just been bought just a few years previous to that, whereas you had like Man United up across the other side of the road with years and years of history well earned. But yes, so Lee, we see these arguments amongst journalists. Is there one that you trust more than the other, perhaps?
I'm going to be biased, don't you?
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Sky. No, and seriously, yeah, Sky. I think Keith Downey, Pete Graves, because they wouldn't tell, especially Pete Graves being a Toon fan, he's not going to tell his own audience, mislead them. A couple of international ones that are Lon John, the Eurosport, the French guy, he seems to be getting a lot right. Jason Burt, he seems to be on track. Like I say, Luke Edwards questions everything. I do like that as a journalist.
It's good analysis, isn't it?
Yeah, he questions it, which I do like. And you would probably say then maybe the Telegraph to some extent, maybe the Times, maybe, but that's far as me.
So in terms of Chris Waugh and Miguel Delaney,
the Athletic, yeah. Sorry, the Athletic, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of Chris Waugh having that bashing the head together with Miguel Delaney, Chris made a concluding point to say, in my opinion, the two can be differentiated to a point that is how most fans appear to be treating it. they harbour concerns and want something, but at the same time are excited that Ashley seems to be finally going. I don't feel they should be made to feel guilty about that latter point. So interesting stuff there. And that is pretty much that it for the takeover. But I just want to end this part on a light-hearted note. So on Twitter especially, we keep seeing things along the lines of just waiting on the official announcement and dot the I's, cross the T's, and etc. When do you think this will happen? And if so, how will you celebrate it, mate?
I can't really go out, can I? We're going to have I think we're all going to jump on the live stream and just get hammered. And I'll say that politely because this is being broadcast on radio. So hashtag canned everywhere. I think you'll see me drunk. You'll see Sam drunk. There might be some weird singing going on. It's going to be in some weird way. I would like it to be when there's not a lockdown, so we can go out and celebrate. But if it happens, so be it. Look, we've got Meg Ashley at the club. I think everyone would accept that.
If you can give this 3 more months so that we can be well and truly out of lockdown, and hopefully by the time social distancing is a memory. How about you, Aisha?
Well, yeah, I was going to say we've waited long enough. If we just, if they can wait just a bit longer until lockdown is over and we can really go out and, be blissfully celebrating this huge chapter that we're going to enjoy now, I think it'd be huge. I think I'll probably, if we're still in lockdown and it all goes through, I guess I'll just celebrate by having a night with my dad, watching like Newcastle matches and just reminiscing on the good times and what we could be. And, like we spoke about last week, reaching that promised land of the 90s that we reached and that we're aspire to get to again. And I think in terms of like Man City, when they initially, the initial deal actually progressed 22 days later into like the final stages, and right now we're reaching that time period of 22 days. So if that's anything to go by, probably there'll be further delays, like you said, because we're in lockdown and it's hard to say. We're all constantly checking updates, but I think within the next week to 10 days we'll pretty much know what's happening. And as cautious as I am, I'm very optimistic. And as time goes on, I'm getting more and more anxious. But I can't really think about how I'll celebrate. But I guess, I'll probably just spend time with my dad watching Newcastle games. By the way, the main Saudi Arabia sports channel today were broadcasting old Newcastle games. Did you guys see that?
Seen the tweet, yeah. Ironic.
Crazy. Like, come on, like that has to say something in itself. Like all the, like you said about on Twitter, like those public figures who are starting to follow the club. So I don't know. I mean, all these things are just adding up, and I feel like we're just building towards this announcement day. And we just have to be positive, but we have to, take a pinch of salt with every update that we hear and just hope for the best.
And commenting on our live stream isn't the only way to get in contact with us. You can also interact with the show via WhatsApp. The number is on your screen right now. It's 074-764-97166. And Jay has used that. Jay in Atlanta. He said that he really wanted it to be #cans today. Sadly not today, but he still thinks that it will happen. So that is what we think. What do you think? So keep commenting down below and we'll keep interacting with you. That is it for part 1. I will now love you and leave you and make way for the great Sam Mulliner, who will take over from me for part 2. No pun intended there. And that is all the best from me. Thank you very much. Light it up and we smoke. Keep me high up off the ground. In a hate, in the crowd. We ain't ever coming down. We ain't ever coming down. Like islands in the sky. Living in a paradise.
And we are back. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. And we are bringing in Sam. Hiya, Sam. How are you doing?
Evening all. Hope we're all well.
And we're bringing in Kyle as well. Hiya, Kyle. Can't hear you, Kyle. Can't hear you. Come back in and come back out and come back in. Right, Sam, what we'll do whilst Kyle sorts his audio out is I'm just going to have a look at WhatsApp. If I can get this loaded up, and I've been trying not to hide, show all everyone's number. We do apologise if your number is shown on screen. That is at your own risk, I must stress. But whilst Kyle comes back in, let's have a look at getting into WhatsApp. If it decides to work, that is. It is working. Right then. So we've had a few messages. Let's have a look at these then. So let's start from the bottom. Kevin says, Sam, do you think the takeover is going to go through?
Yes, it's a case of when, not if. The BeIN Sports thing, the whole letters of objection from certain parties shouldn't put the markers on it. It's merely a delay thing, but ultimately it will go through. Right,
cool. Kyle, can you hear us?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
spot on. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all good.
Right, we'll just carry on and running through some. I'll just fly through some of these WhatsApp messages. The WhatsApp is the only place you're guaranteed to get your name and your message read out. This is from Stephen from Wallsend. He thinks, think Potts would be a great choice. Fresh start, attacking football. Got a good record and bringing young players in. Funny you should mention that, Stephen, because that's what we'll be talking about in just a moment. Liam says, thoughts on the media thinking Steve Bruce deserves a chance. Again, we'll be talking a little bit about that in a moment. When the takeover happens, I don't think he deserves a chance, mainly because Steve Bruce has spent a lot of money at Aston Villa. He did awful, and that was in the Championship. Gary says, on the Saudi Royal website, where they said it was a done deal, underneath stories of not killing minors anymore. Hashtag Cans, says Jonathan. Hashtag Cans. We just need to be patient. 99% confident the takeover will be announced before the 7th of May. Gray from Marseille, of all places. Wow. Is there another buy option? Perhaps an American group that's also keeping this from going forward. Gray, I think it's too far gone. I think it is. I think even if a second bid comes in now, they've exchanged money of 17 million. Cans on ice all the way from Glasgow. Pochettino from the start. Fingers crossed, says Ross. Alan says, hello, guys. I have no problem with these owners. The government sells 6 billion of arms to them Royals. Also, the Royals are good friends with them, and all the journalists are complaining about that. Fed up of Southern press bias. Good channel. Keep it up, says Alan. Thank you very much, Ali. If the takeover goes through to start off with, which I would target British players, such as Premier League experience, such as Max Aarons, he's been mentioned a few times now, Ben Godfrey, Charlie Taylor, John McGinn, and Ryan Fraser, who will be available on a free now. And you can see there he's named his starting lineup. I'll let you guys at home read that. And Moussa Dembele up front, that was from Ali. Jay from Atlanta, which Rob read out earlier. Thank you very much. Saudi, you've sent us a massive voice note. Sorry, mate, we don't have time to read voice notes out. Isha's beautiful and knowledgeable on football. I don't think there was anything better. Isha, you've got a little fan favourite there. Well done, Rob. You definitely missed out on the quiz. There was a winner there. It was Sam. And I'll read out the final two. Please keep them coming in. I've just had a horrible feeling that the BeIN Sports situation is going to stop the takeover, and that's from Steve Sully. And Unknown says, if the takeover goes through, who would be your top 5 players? Kyle, I'll give you that question. Give me 5 players. If the takeover goes through, 5 players? Yeah. It's some question that I wasn't expecting any of that. But yeah, the comment section's giving us a lot of love. People are asking us about this top. Going from, I think it's 2008, I think it's the away top for that year. So it's someone on the Facebook page was wearing it because Saudi television at the minute is playing a friendly between Newcastle and Celtic, and Newcastle wearing this top. So I'm a man of the people. I believe in superstitious things, so man is wearing this. But to answer your question, Lee, the first player I would go and get is probably someone like a Ryan Fraser. Actually, is a good player like that. He's hard working, good winger, someone decent off the bench because we're relying on someone like Christian Atsu to come off the bench. And as you know, through Paul,
who's been very honest with Christian Atsu. He might be good at FIFA and he might be this and he might be that, but let's be honest, he's not very good in proper football, is he? I see the comment, love the hot lockdown haircut. It is. Lee's done it as well, but he's hit his with his hat. So
Yeah.
there we go. There's his lockdown haircut. But to be fair, I think we spoke about 2 weeks ago on the radio show that would need a big name. So I'd go for a couple of decent players like your Ryan Frasers and players like that. But if you want a big name, I would go for. In terms of a big name, I'd go for a big centre forward like a Timo Werner or something like that, because
I would love him.
Because at the minute, you look at the striking options we've had this season. I mean, I love Andy Carroll, but he can't score goals, and he can't get on a field either. Dwight Gale has had several one-on-one opportunities this year, hasn't put the ball in the net. And Joe Linton, I mean, 3 goals this season, 40 million. I mean, we can argue back and forth whether he is a striker or whatnot, but at the end of the day, he was brought in for a striker. Just seen a comment there, Sean Paul van der Beek as well. He'd be a fantastic signing. But no, I would go for someone like a Timo Werner, someone quick, guaranteed to score you some goals, and a big name for the fans to get excited about as well, and someone worthy of the number 9 shirt, I'd say.
If you're all watching, please let us know what you think of the new look as well. We'd love to get your feedback, but I'm going to hand over to Sam, who's going to present for the rest of this section. Over to you, Sam.
Cheers, Lee. Right, okay, so this week has seen increased speculation about Mauricio Pochettino, and could he be the new manager of Newcastle United once the takeover is confirmed? So, Kyle, I'll come to you first. Is all this speculation unfair on Steve Bruce? Because at the end of the day, he's Newcastle manager. He's secured us in the Premier League pretty much. Is it a bit unfair? He could still win us the FA Cup this season.
I mean, there's 2 sides to it, as there is to every story, Sam. For me, I think it is unfair that the amount of speculation, like he's already out of a job kind of thing, I'd say that's unfair. But if we do get taken over and we've got a lot more money coming in, and there's a lot higher aspirations from these to be investors, then Steve Bruce isn't the man for a job. You cannot go from getting sacked from Aston Villa to being the manager of the richest Premier League, the richest club in the world. Do you know what I mean? So if the takeover happens, then Steve Bruce should get through at the end of the season and then go from there. But I just cannot see a Bruce staying, and the media can sense that, and so can the fan base as well. It is unfair the amount of speculation there is, because I already talked about Pochettino coming in, but I can see why. But then again, you can talk about, is it unfair and anything like that. Look what he did to Sheffield Wednesday last year. Took them to mid-table, talk of this and that for the next season, and then he left straight for Newcastle straight as soon as the call came. So his loyalty isn't very far, and I think it's a case of karma for him, like, if he does get shown the door.
Lee, do you think it's a bit harsh on Steve Bruce, given that we've been mid-table all season and we've never really sort of been in real danger of going down into the Championship, unlike the previous 2 seasons where we've had stints in the bottom 3 under Rafa? Could the takeover have been possible, or the imminent takeover have been possible, were it not for Bruce keeping us in a safe position all season?
Valid point. I've just thought Kyle was on the booze there because he's having a can.
Kind of Pepsi, mate.
It's not the hard stuff. That's on ice. To some extent, yeah. Obviously, there was a rumour last time the takeover was all surrounding where Newcastle were at the time, because you remember Rafa was, until that takeover with Stavely, we were hovering around the bottom 3 until probably late February, when we went on that great run and pulled ourselves to mid-table. If we were in the bottom 3 or hovering around there, would it affect the takeover? Maybe, but I think the price will be knocked right down. I think it is harsh on Bruce, and look, nobody wanted him in at the start of the summer except from Johnny. Sorry, Johnny. We digged him out there. He's going to pop up in the chat now. In all honesty, I think he has expected. Someone say it from me. Past the expectations. That's what I was trying to say. FA Cup, you're sitting in 13th position. by 28, 29 games, you would have laughed. You would have said, Rafa, well done. So Bruce, to be fair, has done an outstanding job. But if this takeover, and we must stress if this takeover happens, we can't be where we are now. We have to go and progress, because these people that are coming in are going to do that. They're not going to hang around. They want to be at the top. And if that takes 3-4 years, unfortunately, Bruce is not the man, Sam.
So obviously we're all still saying ifs because the takeover hasn't happened yet. You will, of course, know when it has, because you will see us all on this stream trolleyed, let's say. Hashtag cans. So, Lee, is the only way Steve Bruce can keep his job? Is it the FA Cup? Does he have to win that to keep his job?
You might let him keep his job. That's not going to guarantee him keeping his job. I think it'll help him. Look, I think we are almost safe, or one more win. I think that'll be it. Maybe 4 points. The FA Cup, if he wins it, it'll give the owners a bit of food for thought. But even then, it might not guarantee him that he's kept on. So it'll be mad that we haven't won a trophy for 50 years, 51 years. We're first manager who does it and he gets the sack. That would be so us, wouldn't it? But I can't see him. Even if he wins the FA Cup, I can't see it being long haul.
So, Kyle, let's stick with that hypothetical. Steve Bruce wins an FA Cup for his boyhood team. He now has an open checkbook for the first time since, I know we spent a bit under Steve McLaren, but Sir Bobby was or maybe Souness was the last time we really invested in the team properly.
Right, okay.
He would have got us into Europe via the FA Cup. Surely they won't be able to sack him after that, if that happens.
It's one of them, Sam. It really is, because if he won an FA Cup, there'd be a lot more fans behind him. But it's still the same kind of situation where he's been an average manager at best. And when he first came through the door, I think he had the second worst winning average of a Premier League manager over 200 games. So if you're an ambitious owner and you want to take a football club that you've just bought to the next level, you're not having Steve Bruce as your manager. That might be his, like, the icing at the top of the cake for him to end a career. But for Newcastle, it's really hard to say, because we're a team that haven't won any trophies, and it really sounds we're stationing a little bit, and we're kind of just put my nose down at Steve Bruce regardless if he wins anything. But if these owners are talking about going on to win Premier League titles and going on to try and play in European football, Steve Bruce is not that man. And he's a lovely bloke, and he's done well to an extent this season, and he'll always have me respect for how well he's done for Newcastle, considering all the boycotts and all the stuff against Mike Ashley and things like that. He would have kept the ship stable while we're going to the next part, and I'll always have respect him for that. But that being said, he's just not the man. If we want to go to that next level, Steve Bruce just isn't that bloke. It's a bite the bullet thing, and it's like shooting Bambi, as Paul would say. But it's one of them. Even if you won an FA Cup, it's just like, right, that's a perfect way to retire. Go from there, and then obviously get the one that they want in.
Nige in the comments has a good suggestion. Buy Bruce a statue, then send him to Sunderland. That's one option.
It's too good for Sunderland, mate.
Obviously, we've got a little tie against Manchester City before we even think of FA Cup glory. But that was just dealing in hypotheticals. Lee, before Pochettino was properly linked to Newcastle over the past week to 10 days, was he a name that kind of drew you in when the manager speculation started, or was it all still about Rafa coming back?
Bit of both. I think Rafa, because we've got that connection, we'll love him, don't we? That's always going to be there. Pochettino, he's probably the next, or if not better than Benitez. He's out. You can do that. Weigh them two up, the pros and cons. I think Rafa's been in the game a lot longer, whereas Pochettino seems to be more of a man management. Danny Rose, who's at our club, absolutely loves him, and he was a pet favourite at Spurs. So he has a different mixture of different managers there in Benitez and Poch. But if you look where Poch is, Poch hasn't won nothing, nearly did in the Champions League, whereas Rafa has, because he's been around. But if you look where Poch has, he went to Espanyol, got his move to Southampton, improved them, and look what he's done at Spurs the last 5 years. And what's cost him his job is probably not winning that final in the poor start of the season. But I think Pochettino, throw money at it. It's an ambitious project. Medium to long term, he probably is the answer. But I wouldn't be against that. But him or Rafa at the moment, unless some Hollywood star come out with from Norway, but that's not at the moment. But I'd be for Poch, me.
Kyle, would you be up for Poch, or do you still dream of the return of Rafa and Rondon?
It's a difficult one because I'll be happy with either of them. If you'd have said Pochettino was appointed with new owners and all that, I'd be ecstatic, and it'll be exactly the same if Rafa came in, because with Rafa, it's very much a case of unfinished business. And he came to Newcastle, he gave a lot of fans hope, as me included, when he lifted out the Championship and we had that battle inside. You just thought if we'd had a little bit of investment, he could have took with the European places, even with a lower budget than the teams in and around with. So I feel Rafa, with a decent budget, has experience of that. That's what would edge it ahead of Pochettino for me. I mean, don't get us wrong, Pochettino with younger players plays a lovely style of football and done amazing things with that Spurs team. So he's it's not as if it's a bad option if you went for him instead of Benitez or whatever. But I'd take any of the two of them. Me, both would be fantastic for Newcastle. Both would get a real good mood behind the club with new signings, and both of them will be able to implement their vision. Pochettino has a point to prove after Spurs being sacked there ridiculously, in my opinion, and Rafa has a point to prove as a world-class manager on a world-class stage, because he hasn't been there for a couple of years since he's failing at Real Madrid, arguably. So both have a point to prove, and both would be a very good move by Newcastle if they were going to make it. So either or, I'm not really fussed which one. I'm really not. I'd both be fantastic.
So Jason in the comments kind of read my mind, which was going to be my next point to you, Lee. Jason says, did anyone actually enjoy watching us play under Rafa? It was boring, negative, defensive football.
What, Josh?
Lee, do you agree?
Well, Hoslu's better than Joe Litton.
True.
Look,
goals-wise, yeah.
Was Rafa entertaining when Liverpool won the Champions League? No.
For the second half, that finally was.
Yeah.
Well, they came back from 3-0 down to win it, so that was reasonably entertaining.
Well, if you ask a Liverpool fan, or what do they think of Rafa Benitez, they don't talk about exciting football. They never do. So I think in a one-off game, you want Benitez. In a one-off game, you would have him because he's very tactical-minded and he's very good at it. Look at his CV. Pochettino is still learning, don't get me wrong, but he's crafted in the Premier League over the course of 6-7 years with Spurs and Southampton. But if it meant playing ugly and we won a trophy. It doesn't matter if we win 1-0 or 5-0. It'd be better if we win 5-0, don't get me wrong. But if we win a trophy, Rafa Benitez, when he was here, we thought we had hope with him. And we always thought, not so much Mike Ashley's going to change, but we thought with him there, at least we'll have a bit of hope. And when Rafa went, you've seen the carry-on last summer. Everyone, the whole channel went through it. The fans went through it. You've seen the first game at Arsenal for boycotting. We got upset about it. We weren't happy. Me, Kyle Paul, we were raging outside. We didn't want to go all the way for that again. So hopefully the owners come in and appoint a sensible appointment, because I don't think you're going to see Joe Kinnear ×2 back in daft appointments like that.
God
you
forbid.
will have. But I think what will happen, and I know Owen's going to talk about it later, is a lot of stuff with the communication, actually listening to your supporters, because that's not what's happening at the minute.
Yeah, joking here for Director of Football. Get your comments in. I'm joking.
Johan Kebab. Johan,
yeah.
Don't get me started on joking here, please.
So, sticking with Rafa, and I'll stick with you again, Lee. Would you trust him with a kind of open checkbook? Because although Rafa is a tactical genius, and he is a total genius, his record in the transfer market when spending big, and I look at the likes of Aquilani at Liverpool, would you trust him with an open checkbook, or is that another reason why you'd go for Poch?
Well, with Rafa, I wouldn't say I trust him fully. Look, he's got some bad buys at Newcastle. Jacob Murphy's probably right up there. Matt Sells, Ashraf Lazar. They're the three you probably think that stand out straight away. So he does get things wrong. Not every manager does. Mourinho gets his buys wrong. He's regarded as a world class. Pep Guardiola, not so much, but everywhere where he's been, he's had money wherever he's gone. He's never took a championship side or he's never started low. But if Rafa had 100 million or 150 million to spend, I would trust him more than a lot of other managers. Granted, he's got his faults, but there's not many. I'm supporting Rafa tonight. Come on, people.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because when the market was originally formed, I believe you got a little graphic for us. Like when the market was formed for next Newcastle manager, Rafa opened up at 4-6 He's now drifted this week. He's now in 3-1 second favourite, as you'll see on screen now, if you're watching on the live stream. Mauricio Pochettino is now odds on for next Newcastle manager. The money keeps coming. When the market opened, he was around about 12-1. So there's been massive amount of money in for Poch. Kevin Keegan this week, there's been a bit of money for him, but I think that's obviously he was linked to a return to the club, but I think that's only going to be as an ambassadorial kind of role. Another one mentioned a few days ago was Jorge Jesus.
He's been linked
he's a Portuguese chap. He has, and fun fact, he was in charge of Benfica when they knocked us out of the Europa League a few seasons ago.
Correction, when David Santon knocked out the cup with his horrendous back pass. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to bring up too much memories of that time. He has some Saudi connections, though. He managed Al Hilal for a season where I think he only lost one game. So that's where the link came on. Kyle.
Yes.
Is it a two-horse race? Is it a straight choice between Rafa and Poch or the likes of Favre, Spalletti, Roberto Mancini and Jesus? They've all been linked. Can you see them getting a shout?
Personally, mate, I think it's a three-horse race. I think it's between the two that you've mentioned, Pochettino and Rafa, and Bruce, because you never know, they might keep him on for a little bit, similar to what Man City did with Mark Hughes, if the takeover does indeed happen. But for me, as I've said before, I prefer either one of the two and move Bruce on at the end of the season. But for me, I think it's between three. If you're a betting person, it's one of them three managers for sure.
Lee, what are they saying in the WhatsApps about their next manager choices? Is it all support for Poch or are people craving the return for Rafa?
We can always have a look, can't we? So let's load that up. So get bear with me, we're going to just take a minute to filter through and then we'll have a little look.
There's not many of them there.
There is quite a few that do come through, so we'll have a little look when it's... do you want to talk about something else whilst I load that?
Yeah, Jason's in the comments again.
As well.
Yeah, you definitely would. It would be good to see him back. Yeah, Jason's in the comments. He'd love to see Simeone at the Toon. Chris, I agree with asking Keegan. Shearer as a coaching or behind-the-scenes role. And Gary says, Poch manager, Rafa director of football. I think that's a recipe for disaster. Two big egos there. I don't know how that would go. Lee, you're on WhatsApp now. What can you see?
Yeah, let's have a look. Again, apologies if your number is displayed on screen. We will save that number after it's been shown. Hi, Lee. Do you hope Takeover is real? Don't think it is, though. Love the top, says Kyle. So that's for William from Belfast.
Spot on.
Kyle's getting a bit of love. Look, I said earlier on, I think I am confident that will happen. 75 against 25. Liam from London says, as Paul Merson thinks we should go for Jack Grealish, would you take him at Newcastle? Sam, I'll ask you a question.
Not.
No. Sam, would you take him? No. He's done it. Thanks for that. Beers in the fridge. That was great from Marseille earlier on. Alan says, well, Kyle has a picture of the best Premier League striker in
Premier League. Yeah, I got
League.
this today, you know. Look at this.
People can't say. I'll show it in a moment. Football has been terrible under Bruce. He has done well, but you're going to give him 200 million plus, says Alan. Yeah, that's the worry, innit? They gave Bruce from that. Gregor Femi Martins, funny name, well done. Not a real name, of course. If we go ahead and get the go-ahead from the Prem, it's likely we'll find out it's been passed there and then, or we will have to wait a few days for payment to go through for the announcement. I can't wait much longer to kill me. Yeah, that did come out the other day, that if the takeover does happen, with that, we may have to wait a few days. Mohammed from Saudi Arabia is going on about the human rights. We're not really talking about that as of much now. Sorry, Mohammed. But he has gone on to say that I don't see our country buying Newcastle United for bad reasons, because we love football, we admire football, and we'll be more than happy to see Newcastle United as one of the strongest clubs in the world. And this is now from Saudi as well, watching one of the old Newcastle games on Saudi Sport TV. That's actually been shown in the UK as well. Do you think Newcastle need to play outside of the UK to get fans, or need more? And I'll read out some of your WhatsApp messages a little bit later.
Thank you for that.
The picture from before, I was picking it up the day. Mad, 20 quid off eBay. It's wicked canvas, like. But yeah, what were we saying, Lee? Sorry.
It's Sam.
Oh, Sam, sorry.
Yeah, for radio listeners, Kyle just held up a canvas photo of Alan Shearer.
It was fantastic.
So, yeah, it is very good. Okay, so back to Pochettino. Kyle, what do you think the main reason is that the potential new owners are drawn to him? Do you think perhaps it's about the way he goes about bringing youth and gelling that in with experience into a team?
I think Pochettino is one of the best up-and-coming managers in world football, and it would make total sense for to go for a manager like him. He plays some fantastic football, like I said before. He's really good with young players as well. Like, look at the likes of Dele Alli and that at Tottenham, who have managed to make a name for themselves under him at the club. So it makes total sense. I mean, even spending very little money, he managed to take that Tottenham side, which is a good team, don't get us wrong, but it's not capable of getting to a Champions League final. But he managed to get them there. So for me, there's definitely a reason why you would go for him, and there's definitely a pull as to why. And plus, he's been linked with the likes of Real Madrid, Man United. He's been linked with the who's who of European football. So if these owners want to send out a big message to the rest of Europe saying there's a new team in town, Pochettino will probably be the manager to bring in, because it's sending out a message.
Yeah, on the screen now, you'll see his management record, where he obviously started at Espanyol in 2009. Not particularly, well, kind of average record there, a win rate percentage ratio of just under 33%. Then obviously he got the move to Southampton, impressed there at a time when they were selling all of their best talent. And then Spurs, a massive 54.3% win ratio. So in his 5 and a half years there, the record speaks for itself, Lee. A tremendous job. There
it is, yeah. Espanyol, obviously, second biggest club in Barcelona. They're always going to be under their shadow. But obviously, Pochettino used to play for Espanyol. That's why I think he's got the job. You've got to get your first job somewhere, and he's got a good job there in La Liga. Done all right. It's an average record, but they never had much money, and they've got a half-empty stadium half the time. Southampton, that's where he started to. When we obviously remember when we seen him when he came in, he couldn't speak the language. He had to have an interpreter. It reminds me a bit like Bielsa. When he come in, he had to get someone to speak for him. And then obviously he started to grasp the language. He started doing interviews. The team started to play better. I think that probably coincides with him learning English. And then you've seen Southampton have some good young talent. Obviously, the joke goes around that Liverpool bought half their squad, of course, a feeder club. And then obviously we've seen it with Spurs, where he's gradually got them into the Champions League on a regular basis. And obviously seen his emotions. And in the summer, May, when they got into the Champions League final, he was crying and he's passionate. And I'm sure you'll probably talk about BeIN Sports soon. But yeah, his records, will it be that high at Newcastle? I would like to hope so, to get a 50-odd% win ratio, because that'll be put him up there with like even better than Keegan, won it. They'll be pushing him right up. But if you can have a 40 to 45% win ratio, Newcastle will do very well.
Yeah, we'll come on to the BT Sport interview a bit later on, because viewers may or may not know we were secretly involved in that interview with Jake Humphrey in a kind of weird way. I'll fill you in on that in a few minutes' time. But Kyle, do you think the passion that Pochettino kind of shows, as Lee said there, after the Champions League semi-final. Do you think that's something that will really resonate with our fan base?
The passion, absolutely. Anyone's passionate up here, they're well loved for it. I mean, look at Matt Ritchie, fantastic on and off the field, and he shows his passion by battering corner flags half to death, and people love that. Do you know what I mean? So if Pochettino, after a win, went to the corner and started showing his passion, he would be loved on Tyneside forever. So yeah, the passion's probably the main thing that fans would resonate with him for sure. And the name of the Wolves manager, by the way, is Nuno Espirito or something. And he has a dream, according to all of Wolverhampton.
Would you take him? Is he an outside bet?
Yeah.
Would you? Will you take him?
I'd take him, but I don't think he'd come at the moment.
Nah, he's got a good thing going on at Wolves. Why would he leave?
It's a good show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What about Bielsa? Someone else says
maybe.
I think we'd cause a riot down in Yorkshire, wouldn't we? If we took him on.
We'll use Paul.
Isn't Pochettino a disciple of Bielsa?
Say again?
Isn't Pochettino one of Bielsa's disciples?
Yeah, spot on.
You kind of getting a Bielsa junior there anyway, someone who's from the school of Bielsa. So maybe that's another reason that we should have Pochettino. Keep your comments coming in on the WhatsApp 0747 649 7166. I think. Is that right? There it is. 0747 649 7166. I think I got it right the first time. Unbelievable. So the first time Pochettino's name really kind of come to the fore, I think, was when we did our interview with Warren Barton 7 to 10 days ago now. It was on the channel. It's still there. You can find it at Newcastle Fans TV on YouTube. Here's what he had to say about the former Spurs manager, Lee.
Yeah, we'll play that in a moment then, so I've just got to scroll down. But yeah, Warren Barton was obviously saying a lot of stuff about Pochettino. Here it is.
But if you are going to be ambitious, Pochettino's for me is a no-brainer. He loves young players. He loves the style of football. He's passionate. He's obviously understands the business side of working with someone like Levy. So, you know, for him to be able to be given the opportunity. And I think we have to be careful in Newcastle as well, that if we are going to get these owners, it is going to be an open checkbook. Everyone else knows that. So I think with Pochettino, you've got someone that is good with young players, plays good football, first and foremost. He reminds me a lot of Kevin when he was younger, you know, how he could be quite fiery and then he could be a big laugh and a great joker in the changing room. So that type of level. Allegri, for me, I'm not sure whether Newcastle would get what he wants. And by saying that, it's a project. We're going to develop. But we've had that for 13 years. I think we want to hit the ground running. We've not got to have time to have a coach that sort of got to develop and understand as well. Rafa, I love him, but I think that door's closed. You know, we know now he's gone off and done great things. I think it's a fresh start. As much as you want to keep the old boys and some of them around, maybe behind the scene, but I would love it to be fresh. You know, we don't need a Mourinho. You know what I mean? I want someone that's going to be Julian Nagelsmann that's at Leipzig. He's a great young coach, but maybe he's not ready to come into that. Where Pochettino, he ticks so many boxes in that he understands the league, he's ready-made, he's hungry, he wants to prove people wrong, and I think this club would be an ideal opportunity for him. That's where I would like the club to go. He's ready. We haven't, you know, like I said, we don't want to keep working on a project going. The world is projects at the moment, but he's ready to hit the ground running. He's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder as well, and I think that's what we all had when we come here. We wanted to prove that we're a top club, and you know, even thinking about it now, you know, your hairs on your arms stand up and you get excited about what might be around the corner.
That was Warren Barton. As I say, for the full video, go to our YouTube channel. He's so knowledgeable, and the passion he still has for Newcastle United just shines through. He speaks a lot of sense as well. Kyle, you heard what he had to say about Pochettino there, comparing him to Kevin Keegan as well. With the director of football role up for grabs as well, can you see them as a bit of a dream team?
I could actually both play attacking style of football, both good with young players. Match made in heaven, eh? Better love story than Twilight. Yeah, I'd be all for it.
Sorry, what's Twilight? Do you want to expand on that?
Not a clue, mate. I'm just going off the saying that I've seen. I've never seen Twilight in my entire life.
Yeah, I believe you. I'm not sure many other people do. Lee, would you go along with that dream team, or would you prefer a Celez in there with Poch?
I find I love Sir Les. It's no hidden secret. With Les, look, he's been a QPR a long time and he's been a director of football there, and he's learned on the job, I guess. But they've been obviously with financial restrictions now in the Championship. But QPR are actually doing well, and they've got a young talent. Enze is called, isn't he? He's banging in the goals. Young lad, they'll get a bit of money off him. Hopefully, I can't see him sticking around. But going back to the question, Ferdinand, for nostalgic reasons, would be fantastic to come back. Obviously, he's got a good history with us, even if it was 2 years. He still speaks well about the club. He still comes up, does talk-ins, phone-ins, etc., etc. And I think, can Ferdinand go and attract a big name from Europe? That's probably my only worry from that. Because if you had someone who was in there, who's done it, but who knows? We don't know. But yeah, Ferdinand and Pochettino, two former Spurs lads as well. It'd be interesting, put it that way. But Pochettino, everyone's talking about him. I'm just hope that, because he has said about he loves Spurs and all that, and maybe he's just saying that because he's obviously still contracted them technically, but be not a bad shout. But even if it was say Keegan in the directors of football, if he is, I don't know if Keegan wants to do that or if it's just an ambassador role, but I think modern football, European football, does have someone there dealing with the transfers, and we've never had one for years, the chief executive at the club.
Kyle, do you think that's what would put Rafa off a return, is having to work with the director of football?
Hasn't he been working under a strict? Wasn't he working under strict scouts in any way? Wasn't he getting working with players and then Charnley and things like that? He's been working under that when he was at Newcastle the first time, where he probably got players he didn't want in and things like that. Jason's caught on the comments. I'm looking at my hair because he says it's ginger. I'm a bit on the ropes with that one, but the thing that will probably the only thing that will probably put Rafa off coming back is probably a bigger club coming in for him, maybe a team in Europe. But I don't think that's on the table for him. I don't think there's anything else that will potentially do that. I think Rafa will come back under a new regime, especially under Amanda Staveley being involved. I think it's a no-brainer for him.
Yeah, in regards to your hair as well, I mean, it's a lot better than it was a couple of weeks ago where you had the look of a bike thief.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
Well, I'm not one to talk. I need a haircut myself, but
you could join the crew and get a biker haircut like me. Straight out of the top.
That's what's put me off getting on. Yeah, that's what put me off getting on. So Kenny Wilshire was in the comments earlier saying the trouble with Keegan is once it goes wrong, he's out the door. Good point, really, considering it's happened not once but twice.
Yeah, a few times.
David's one for Simeone. Would he really leave Atletico to?
Did you know Simeone is I'm sure he's the world's highest paid manager. Pep Guardiola second. Simeone's on something ridiculous, man. It's in the 30 million euro a year. It's absolutely mental.
We were bulking at, what is it, reported for Pochettino, 19 million?
99.
And Simeone's in the 30s. That's crazy.
Rafa will be less wage as well. He was only on 40. I think he was on 4 million a year when he was here, Rafa. So if you look at it, 19 million, that's crazy.
I think Rafa got on with his promotion 97,000 a week.
I mean, I don't know weekly wages with Rafa, mine, but not doing too bad. I wouldn't mind being a quid behind him.
Yeah, no, that's more than I earn a week. I can confirm that. So there was an interview. On what?
You're on furlough, babe.
Well, exactly. So, there was an interview a few nights ago now on BT Sport with Pochettino, with our favourite football presenter, Mr. Jake Humphrey. He announced that Pochettino was coming on. Obviously, that spurred on a load of replies from Newcastle fans everywhere. He then revealed that he then revealed that he was only allowed to talk about the Champions League game. So, as I'm NFTV Twitter admin along with Lee, I set Mr. Jake Humphrey a challenge, and that challenge was to shoehorn in the phrase "cans." So there was a good 40-minute interview, which we were all watching, and just when you think he'd blown it, the last words out of Jake Humphrey's mouth was "sit back and crack open a few cans." So viewers of the stream now can see my reply to Jake. Fair play to him. Just when you think he'd blown it, he smashes it out of the park. Could he do it? Of course he can. So I think, fair play to Jake for that.
Whilst we've got Owen's reply on there, I think Owen deserves a bit of stick for that name, mind.
It's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, Owen's presenting section 3, so by all means, get your comments in about that.
Yeah, I would as well. Give him the stick he well and truly deserves.
Moen Hamid?
Moen Hamid, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting thing. But yeah, there you go. So yeah, well done, Jake Humphrey, for taking part. The next time, I think I'm going to set him another challenge next time we're on BT Sport to shoehorn in David Batty or something like that. What do you reckon?
It's a little bit more difficult, I think.
Yeah, I think
exactly.
I think Paul would love that, but David Batty hasn't been seen since he's given his wave to the NHS, and he hasn't been seen for about 7 years.
Oh, no, it's a shame. If you just pop up, we'll let one know, because we'll pop him a message. To
Valentine, who would take over Charnley?
Anybody, the postman, the local wife, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who takes over from Charnley. Anybody can do a better job than him.
Would it be Jamie Reuben?
Probably be someone.
Maybe Jamie Reuben, or Staveley obviously wants to have more of an input into running a football club. Obviously, Jamie Reuben's got the experience. He's working at the moment with QPR alongside, interestingly, Les Ferdinand. Would that be the direction to go in?
I think so. Lee? Anyone's better than Charnley, though.
I think if you put Jamie Reuben on the board, if you are going to go and get Ferdinand, that's pretty simple, wouldn't it? You would just say, Jamie, go and get him. Who knows? It's speculating, aren't we? But I think there will be a lot of never mind manager changes, coaching. You'll see a whole load of Poch's team come in if that does happen. And then I think, as we touched upon a week or two back, I think it was me and Kyle had that conversation about a lot of changes on the board and stuff. Don't think you'll just have a one-man board, because that's just ridiculous. For a team like Newcastle, have a one-man board, it'll probably be ending up like 10 people having a say in what happens at the club, and hopefully there's a fan involved.
Yeah, that definitely needs that fan representation and open lines of communication. But that's something that Owen, Lee, you're staying on, and Johnny will be discussing in part 3 about what the new owners can do. Easy gains for the new owners to make. Before we do go for the break, Lee, shall we go to the WhatsApps once more?
Yeah, let's have a little look at your WhatsApp whilst this starts to load. It does take a minute or two it loads. Do you want to chat about something else whilst it loads?
I'll have a look in the comments. So Mark's in the comments saying we should hire Paul Chuckle instead of Lee Charnley. That's an excellent idea. It couldn't be any worse.
At least you got a laugh.
Kyle, do you have... I mean, I know the answer to the question I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Lee Charnley has been an employee at Newcastle United for 20 years. Do you have an ounce of sympathy for him?
Absolutely not. Bye. Ta-ra. See you later.
Yeah, so I thought you might say that. Lee,
yeah, let's fire through again. Apologies if your number is shown on screen. They will be saved after your message has been seen. The only way Bruce can stay, in my opinion, if he finishes 7th, if the season gets finished. Pochettino after that. Scotty is next, and he says, I'd take Rafa over Poch because Poch doesn't do trophies. Nearly did mine, nearly got the Champions League. As we've been linked with Fekir from Real Betis, what is, in your opinion, do we need him? Kyle?
He's a good centre attacking midfielder, I think. Good on the wings as well. So I'll go for someone like him. Yeah, definitely be a decent player to have. So yeah, why not? Especially if we get taken over, we'll be in the market for some good players. So yeah, Fekir will probably be towards the top of the list, I could imagine.
And Gary says, what about Eddie Howe?
Eddie Howe is kind of at a crossroads in his career. He needs to move on from Bournemouth now, I think, to prove whether he's the real deal as a manager or whether he's just going to be a one-club man. I'm not sure Newcastle's the right move for him, though. So I would say no to Eddie Howe.
So if Eddie Howe come available, if Eddie Howe came available, I wouldn't be like dead against it. I prefer Howe over Bruce, though.
Yeah, you'll get a better style from. You get a better style of football under Eddie Howe than you would Steve Bruce.
Yeah,
but yeah. Thanks for the WhatsApps. That draws a close to part 2 and my presenting debut of the Black and White Show. As I say, part 3 is coming up after the break, where Owen and Johnny and Lee will be here talking about the new owners and what they can do to change the club.
Hey, you, I saw you from the distance. Hey, you, can we talk? Hey, you, I think you're my subsistence. Hey, you, or am I wrong? And now, I lose my bones. Like my love is out of my mind. And you, I'm not more than a
Hello, everybody. We are back and we are joined by Owen, who was actually dancing away behind. You couldn't see that. And we're now joined by Johnny as well. How are you, lads? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, brilliant. Johnny, yeah, fantastic. What we'll do before Owen's going to present the next slide, and we're going to be talking about the changes that need to be made at St James's Park. I'm just going to quickly wrap up the WhatsApp, and we'll remember get your WhatsApp in because we'll be coming back to these later on. So we've got a message from Unknown says, imagine if we got pots, we could reinvent the Colaccini chant. Yeah, good shout. Ooh, this was a long one. Right. Personally, I think that us as Newcastle fans need to think about other problems with the club. Hey, we've timed that spot on because that's what Owen's going to be talking about. Personally, I'm happy and I'd rather take pots, but we need to sort out other areas of the club. For starters, the training facility, when you look at the state of it, it's not the best condition and will impact on big players' decisions to sign for the club. If we're going to go out and sign the likes of Cavani and whoever, also thinking about the stadium itself. I've heard people talking about getting in black and white seats, but I think the main talking point is on the training ground, but also the extension of the Gallagher end. Maybe my opinion is different to yours, but I'd like to hear your reaction. And that's from Harry from Langley Park. Harry, we're literally about to talk about that. We'll just quickly read out Steve's message saying that Dwight McNeil will be a great shout. I think Johnny mentioned that in the live chat, didn't you, Johnny, before?
Yeah, I think Dwight McNeil's a good player. I do. I think he's a young player and he's done really well at Burnley. But for me, I think Wilfred Zaha will be ready-made. I think you just got to give him more money that he's on at Crystal Palace, and I think he'd come to Newcastle. He's a good player. He's a very good player, Dwight McNeil, but I still think he probably needs a couple more years in the Premier League. I think he's only had a year and a half in the Premier League, and yes, he's doing well with Burnley, but if we do get these new owners, it will be a step up because they'll want success and they'll want 9, 10 out of 10 performances more or less straight away.
Right then, cool. Owen, it's all up to you. Take it away.
Right, so section 3, we are going to be talking about the changes around the club and the city. Obviously, two are very much interlinked. The city is absolutely drowned out with just Newcastle United. And I thought the best place to start was probably talking about St James's Park. The upkeep of the ground in the past few years has been relatively poor. You look at from rips in the carpet in the executive lounges to just dirty toilets, the lot of it really. It's shocking, really. What do you guys think needs to be fixed? Lee, I'll come to you first.
Well, that's probably the people who are watching can say that's probably the only area of the whole ground that's been changed. Where the old Wonga plaque used to be, around to the Sir Bobby Robson, and then there was a plaque of all the players just across the other end of the road. But apart from that, there hasn't really been a massive change. A lick of a paint job, and Rafa said that about the training ground. For me, if you're looking at the outside, I think the back of the east stand, go around to the east stand. Yes, you can't do much work because of listed buildings, but could do with it clean. There's a lot of mould around there. If you next time you're at St James's Park, have a walk around. You'll see what I mean. I think from the outside, I think toilets, lighting as well, roofs. There's wet patches inside the concourse in some areas when you walk around. I think small things, and then look at the bigger picture later on, where you try and take obviously the Sports Direct signs out. That needs to be done for everyone's sake. And then black and white. I like the idea of having them black and white seats back for me, but there's a few I would start off with, Owen.
Yeah, definitely. I can agree with everything you said there, and obviously the mould. Obviously, you're around there a lot, Lee. You see it. Obviously, you work across the road from the stadium. Johnny, what sort of things do you have on mind that, in terms of upkeep of the stadium, what have you seen that needs to be highlighted and fixed?
I think the whole ground inside the club needs a bit of TLC. I think it's like one of Mike Ashley's warehouses, isn't it? It's just, let's just do the bare minimum to keep everybody happy. It's a long walk, though, from Bournemouth to Newcastle, though. Let's go and have a little check in the stadium, has to be said. So you might have to go in a couple of years' time, mate. But no, in all seriousness, no, it might not be the case that anybody can actually go inside the ground for a little while. Like a lot of reports are saying that there's not going to be a home game for many clubs anymore. It's just going to be in neutral venues. I think there's 8 to 10 neutral venues for a lot of clubs. So, look, we'll just have to wait and see on that. But going back to your question, I think it's a lot of things, if I'm being brutally honest. Look, if you see the stuff outside the ground, you go, it actually it doesn't look too bad. Could do with a bit of a clean, but it doesn't look too bad. They've obviously put in a couple of things that look okay. But inside the ground, yeah, it just needs a tidy up, really. Just like a lick of paint won't just do the trick. It needs to be properly looked after and properly managed. But have the current owners, I have to say the current owners because they're still the current owners for the time being, have they got any interest in that? Probably not.
I've just seen Kenny's comment there, saying that the toilets used to pee down the leg in the Leazes end. That's quite funny, that is. But again, something else that needs to be fixed. Moving on to like inside the ground. Obviously, you heard Lee mention a minute ago black and white seats, which is something I think a lot of us would like to have back. It would bring life to the inside of that stadium. The grey seats just make it seem a little bit dull, I think, in terms of interior design. What other things do you think need to be changed? Obviously, Sports Direct signs definitely need to go if this imminent takeover does go through. What other things have you got in mind, Johnny?
I think the Sports Direct signs will be the first thing. I think fans will volunteer, COVID-19 or not. I think they're going to do it for us to take them down. But look, in all seriousness, I think that is one thing that they would need to do. The black and white seats, I'm not really bothered about, if I'm being brutally honest. I think what you could do to actually get the atmosphere going a bit more in St James's is move the away fans. You can move the away fans where the 18 or 21s are, and then that little corner, you could put 2,500, 3,000 there easy. Make the top bit all Newcastle. You could maybe put a singing section if you want to do the where the away fans used to be. But that would probably be something I'd be into. More flags. I don't know if they've got to mention yet, but get more flags. It was fantastic, especially in the Gallagher. You could see that. Could you imagine that like around the ground? Maybe one side on the Gallagher and then on the John Hall side as well. So someone is watching Catchphrase here to me. It's paused. But who has Catchphrase on? Yeah, pause now. But no, it's no, it'd be good if it could just get a general tidy. But I think it's all about atmosphere, to be brutally honest, and maybe tidy up the inside of the stadium.
The wall flag. Sorry, on the wall flags is a hell of a shout because two people have already mentioned there. Wouldn't it be great to get them back and the Leazes flags back in both? Just seeing St James's Park picturesque once more, the Goodfield factor back, and they have been tweeting a lot more recently with the takeover, and hopefully it does come out. And they did shout her out saying we'll make fantastic content as well. So thank you very much, lads. But it would be brilliant just to see that back as well, because it pumps you up, doesn't it, for the first 5 to 10 minutes before the lads come out onto the pitch. It'd be brilliant to see them back because it's something that we used to talk about. If the football 3-0 defeat, 3-0 win, oh, what a display that was. You know what I mean? Brilliant. I hope to see them back. Yeah,
and I was just about to come on to them because I saw the comments. I think it adds atmosphere to the game, definitely. If you have a good display at the start of the game, then the place just seems to just be that little bit louder. And if war flags were to come back, I'd just love them to branch out from more than the Gallagher and maybe put stuff around the ground, like in the Leazes and Strawberry Corner, whatnot. So, yeah, that's definitely something that we should have in mind. But moving away from St James's Park now, because I don't think that is the thing that needs the most work done to it, although it needs a lot of work.
Oh, sorry, just to interrupt you. Change that shop, because a club shop isn't a club shop. That's a big thing that needs to change as well.
Yep, it's just another Sports Direct, really, isn't it? I can't wait for that club shop to be back and, have some nicer gear in there. But yeah, as I was saying, St James's Park, it's not top of the priority list, although it needs some effort put into it. Training ground is where I'm going next with this. Training ground, there's pictures. That's probably one of the better pictures that we've got up on the screen there. But I don't know whether you guys remember the pictures that came out in the press quite a while ago now of players in wheelie bins, swimming pools, using them as ice baths. On that note, how do you think a new training ground, a new look training ground, high-class facilities, how do you think would attract new players to Newcastle?
I think world-class facilities is going to obviously appeal to your better players, your top-class players. Look, for me, the training ground's been needing a makeover since Bobby left, if we're being brutally honest, maybe a couple of years after that. But you look at the likes of Leicester, their training ground, the designs there look amazing. Spurs' is probably the best in the country, along with Manchester United. Is there's clubs in and around the Championship that want to get promoted to the Premier League probably have better training grounds than Newcastle. So, yeah, it's not great, but that's got to be the most important thing for me, more than improving the stadium, because the stadium sells itself almost at times.
Yeah, and Lee, when Rafa was here, I think he's spoken about since he had plans for the training ground, and in 3 years he was here, all they did was paint the walls. If new owners were to come in, would you say that had to be right at the top of their priority list, or below some other things?
What's more important, the stadium or the training ground? I'll probably put the training ground. Yeah, I'll put the training ground first. Look, we don't even have a swimming pool, and the footballers have got swimming pools. We see Alan St. Maximin all over on his Instagram, swimming and playing with his girls and all that. But in terms of the swimming pools, we don't have one. We had that daft paddling pool where we've seen all the Sissoko in and Jack Hole back in, and it was just embarrassing, man. That you can get $9.99 down at Argos. You know what I mean? It's mental. I think having proper high tech, and not just that, make sure you have the best medical staff to go with it. We're going to if this takeover happens again, if we're going to have loads of money, and that doesn't go against the financial fair play. You can invest as much as you like into the stadium, but more importantly, the training ground. If we have a doctor of science, top of the range medical staff, that would mean it would attract, you're right in saying, Owen, more better players, because they'll look at this and think, blimey hell, this is good, isn't it? Do you know, and they look around, and then you talk about other clubs, which Johnny mentioned, I think, just before. You go to Bournemouth or you go to Leicester. If we're competing for a player, let's take Leicester, because let's just say we get taken over.
I'm glad you didn't say Bournemouth.
Because Bournemouth have got one. Sorry, I didn't click on there. Sorry. But let's just say Leicester, because Leicester are going to be in the Champions League. We're not. We've got money. If we're fighting for this title, I feel like Kevin Keegan there. If we're fighting for the same player, Leicester's training ground, they look at that and think, I'm signing for these, mate. It doesn't influence the whole decision, but it helps influence the player to sign. But in terms of facilities, we've got to have world-class facilities, because at the minute we don't.
Yeah, and I hate to bring them up because I will just get stick for it, but Bournemouth, I can't remember how much their money they were putting into their training ground, but it was a lot of money they're putting into getting a new training ground. And for a team that isn't the biggest, most supported team in the league, that's quite a big statement to invest in your facilities. And obviously, sticking on facilities as well, there's a story that came out back in the January transfer window when we were off Soumer from Lille in France. And I saw a story that Saint-Maximin had actually showed Soumer around on FaceTime, and Soumer turned his nose up at the training ground. And that just says a lot, because he's not exactly world class. Like, no offense to the lad. Yes, he's got a 40 million price tag that we put on him, but he's not exactly world class. And if a player like that is turning our training ground down, then what is Cavani's and Griezmann's and Vidal's gonna do when they see that training ground? So yeah, it definitely needs to be something that is improved. Staying on sort of like the training ground side of things, Lee, I know you're an expert on this stuff. The under-23s, youth development. What sort of things could be improved in order to get the best out of our academy and our under-23s?
How can you get them to the first team? So before the Longstaffs, we didn't have nobody since Paul Dummett. And that's going back a good 7 or 8 years. So trying to get more of the lads through, one, because it saves money, and two, Geordies. It's a Geordie DNA. We talk about it. Paul talks about it quite a lot on the Facebook, Geordie DNA. And yes, we've got Paul Dummett, we've got Andy Carroll, we've got the two Longstaffs. Whether Longstaffs stay or not, that's another question for another day. But you want more of them coming through. We haven't produced enough. We are absolutely in shame if you compare that to Middlesbrough, because Middlesbrough produce young talent over and over and over. We simply don't.
Exactly, yeah. WhatsApps, guys, as well. In about 5 minutes, we'll be reading through your WhatsApps. So don't forget to send your stuff in. The number should be on the screen at some point. Yep, 0747 649 7166. Get your messages in and we'll read through them in about 5 minutes or so. This is a touchy subject. I mean, some fans may be for it, some fans may be against it. You think of Manchester City, for example, after their takeover. community, fan zones, that sort of thing. What do you guys make of Newcastle having a fan zone outside the ground, more community days? Johnny, I'll come to you first. How do you think that would benefit the club, and what sort of impact do you think it would make?
I think mainly I've got different views on this because I'm not a massive fan of this idea. I think it's more of a modern thing. I think it's more, like you say, you mentioned Manchester City. It's more like a family feel. Try and get more families to the match, which is fine. I've got nothing against that. But for me, you've got so much going around the city centre as it is anyway. It's just more competition, and they're probably going to charge more to be involved in this sort of, complex really to have. But if I was Newcastle, I wouldn't entertain it. I wouldn't entertain it unless it was really, really good, and you would go and say, yeah, I really want to take my family there. I really want to take, my friends there. People have routines now where they go to a particular pub, they'll go to a particular restaurant, they'll go inside the ground. So it is difficult, but I think Lee's got a different view as well on it.
Yeah, I think for me, in what puts the UK to shame is when me and Rob went in New York, the Red Bulls Arena blew me and Rob away to the amount it was everywhere. I'm talking I had about 15, 20 things going on around the ground. And I think for the interaction for the fan, yes, it doesn't get you the result. Of course not. 11 men on the pitch do, 22 really. But what it does, it brings that community closer to the club, and we haven't got that. That's why I'm all for it. Even if it means it's in Leazes Park and there's a few bounty castles or whatever. For youngsters, you don't want your 4, 5, 6-year-olds supporting Manchester City. You want them supporting Newcastle. Get the young generation in. Have that bit of interaction. Have NUFC TV out there. Have a couple of the foundation lads. Maybe you could have a meet and greet an under-23 player on a match day, or someone who's not involved, or an ex-player, or something along the lines that bridges that gap, having that fan zone experience. Manchester City had bands and guitars and ex-players on stage and all that. I think, yes, 3 points is more important, but the engagement is what we lack massively, and it's something that I would love to see at Newcastle. I'm all for it, mate.
Yeah,
I think there's slightly sorry, Owen, but I'm just saying there's a couple of things that I would take on board. That the music element is fine. I don't mind if there was a stage and there's music while you're walking to. Obviously, I don't know where you could put it, to be honest with you. But say if you put it next to the Boxer Robson statue, something. I'm just putting that out there. It could be anywhere else on the ground. The music thing would be fine because people would go, yeah, that's quite good. That local up and coming northeast band or artist or whatever, and he's singing football songs or whatever. Fine, that's fine. I just think it's probably more Americanized if you were to go down that route. Because they've got their NFL, they make a big show that you've got to be. I think you're there for 4 or 5 hours, maybe even longer if it's the Super Bowl. I think in England we look at maybe more northern clubs. So it might be a bit different down Wembley or Bournemouth, for example. But in Newcastle or Manchester or Liverpool, I think Liverpool got a stage, but that's about it. Man United and maybe take away Manchester City because they've probably made it a big thing. I just think too many fans would go, it's not my cup of tea. I think when they go to the game, a lot of people will go to the game for about 10 to 3, quarter to 3, unless they've got kids and they can go and play on the Xbox or whatever. Quarter to 3, 10 to 3, get them in. Shout when the announcers get the players, what the starting lineup is. Players come out, play the match, go for your pint and pie at half time. I think it's just too much ingrained into a normal match day.
I think it's not for everybody. It's not saying 52,000 go there, but if you can have 5,000 there, maybe 10 pushing it to it, I think you could do it. So I'm all for it, mate. So, Owen, what I'll do, if that's all right for you, I'll read out some of the since I've got it open. Some of the WhatsApp. So thank you for all your messages tonight. This is the last section that we're reading these out. So thank you very much. Do you think if they stop money fair play, I think it means, can we get more than 8 players as super players, or at least 4 or 5 good players? Johnny?
If you spend your money wisely, you can get 4 or 5 good players without breaking the bank. Let's be honest. The players that are being linked with Newcastle are worth a lot of money. However, if you're shrewd about it and say, I'll take Coutinho and Willian, for example. Coutinho might cost you, say, 60, 70 million for argument's sake. But Willian, who is probably just as good for a couple of years, could he do the same job when he's on a free? So, well, obviously the wages will be massive, but if they're not afraid to pay big wages, then you might be able to tempt them for a couple of years to come up to the northeast. But that's a couple of examples. But if Newcastle want to make a statement, they need to get at least 4 or 5 good players and get rid of 4 or 5 poor players at this football club.
Another one says the club shop sells Man United shorts. Yeah, they don't just sell Man United shorts. There's Barcelona, I've heard, in there as well. A couple more to wrap up with. One thing I'd like to have back at St James's Park is the Shiraz bar. Yeah, because that was renamed after a dispute to the 9 bar. Maybe having that back, or even naming one of the executive boxes, or one of the what do you call it? The club areas. You know, where you go and drink and all that.
He needs a more bigger rule, to be honest.
Yeah,
he needs a more because he. Sorry, Lee. I'm just saying he sells Newcastle United. His name. If you were to ask any fan that wasn't a Newcastle fan, if you had to name one player that plays for Newcastle United or who has played for Newcastle United, everyone or 99% of people say Alan Shearer, Alan Shearer, Alan Shearer. Make him an ambassador of the football club and get him to sell Newcastle around the world, not just in England or whatever. If you make him the icon, and that he's got a Newcastle, I don't know, blazer on with a big badge saying what he's about, you'll sell more seats. You'll make people want it to support Newcastle in general.
Just a point on that as well that I have is that, you know, it just feels weird not having Shearer around the club, like related to the club. Obviously, he's still very much in our hearts. Not that he's dead or anything, that just sounds bad. But yeah, he's very much like in Newcastle fans' minds. It just feels weird that he's just detached from the club. He hasn't got a role. He hasn't got any significance in the modern day football. So I think I'd love to see him return. I'd love to see him return.
Yeah, any of the legends. So finish off reading these. I think the activities at St James's Park open days should be before every match. And what halftime entertainment would you put on? That's a good shout, because I'm sick of seeing Justin Lookwood kick the ball into the back of the net. Johnny, you live in the past apparently. So fortunately, Johnny, get the feature. Come on. An unknown agrees with me. Sorry, this number, that your number's been shown. We have stressed that if you are texting in, your number may be shown if you haven't texted in before. He just says, do you think we should do what Sunderland did and let the fans come in and change the seats due to the fading of the seats over the years? I think we kind of touched on that with the black and white. Johnny wasn't too fussed. I would like to say black and white, but it's not the end of the world if it doesn't. Lawrence Taylor, who's a regular across all the YouTube channels and does some articles for us on the website. And the activities at St James's Park, well, that's the one I've just read out, isn't it? Ignore that one then. Right, okay, so that is your WhatsApp. Thank you very much for all of your messages tonight. Back to you, Owen.
Okay, so just going to finish up on the community side of things. I thought we'd have a little break from that with the WhatsApps. Charity events. What sort of things would you like to see? Because obviously the club do sort of charity events. You know, they have a relationship with the food bank. I know they have the play on the pitch days as well, which some of them are to do with charity, others are paid for. What else do you think the club could get involved in, Lee, in terms of charity?
Well, they use the foundation, don't they? And the foundation, obviously, I think they need a lot more help. I think it's fantastic what they do. They've obviously branched out to us and other Newcastle groups as well to try and get the name out there, the engagement. Look, I think in terms of charity stuff is that maybe competitions and stuff like that where you can, again, meet and greet players a lot more, get more involved, send more footballers. I know footballers, the thing is with footballers, it's very difficult to get a hold of a footballer to do everything. Yes, you see at the odd time, once probably every few weeks, that a footballer goes to a food bank or something online. Let's see more of it. Or let's see, I'd like to see more about personal lives rather than, I know the club have started to do it on YouTube and it's better. And hopefully that does keep it up. Getting to know people inside the club. You know, who's the tea lady? What do they do on a match day? Or what does a director do on a match day? Or do you know those like behind the scenes? Yeah. I'll be so intrigued with that. But in terms of charity, look, I don't know what to do. It seems for me, because we don't get that communication. Again, we're coming back to communication once again with Newcastle, that it gets pushed aside to the foundation. The club do help the foundation, but for me, the number one priority is communication with everything going around.
Johnny, I'll come to you on this as well. Same question as I asked Lee, really.
I think Lee's right to a degree in the fact that there should be more about maybe behind the scenes and stuff like that. But the foundation do a lot of work, which probably gets a bit unnoticed, really. There's not enough coverage or not enough media coverage. Is that because it's not interesting? I don't know. But we've obviously went to Man v Fat, wasn't it? Is it? Yeah, Man v Fat, wasn't it, Lee? A couple of months ago, just before the coronavirus outbreak really started. And, I think we're the only fan channel that's cared maybe about doing something to do with the foundation. I think another channel did something about maybe doing a trolley ride, which raised a lot of money, which is fantastic for them. But there's not enough, really. I don't know if we should do more or whether the club should do more. But the players probably do a lot of charity stuff anyway that just doesn't get mentioned, really. It would not surprise me if every player has been to a local hospital, apart from the Christmas visit, or they have their own charities. Like Christian Atsu does a lot of work in his home country. There's probably loads that we just don't know of. That's the problem. But we need to know.
So that's the thing that we don't know about Christian Atsu. We only know because we see it on his Instagram. Or we'll see it in a Ghanaian website or something like that. We don't see it from the club. The club might dip in the odd time, but it's not enough for me. Again, it's all down to communication once again. It's just... Mm-hmm. And also, I've just thought there, why hasn't Joe Harvey got a statue when Sir Bobby Robson has, Jackie Milburn has, and Alan Shearer has? Joe Harvey's the most successful manager that we've ever had, and he gets a little plaque. He deserves a statue for me.
It's a really good shout because that's our history. We need to be proud of our history. I think a lot of people just think Newcastle were a thing in probably the late 80s or the mid 80s when Keegan was around and, Lee started supporting Newcastle, and then the late 90s and things like that. So I think it's one of those things. But look, we should be proud of our history. I agree totally with Lee and what he says about the statue. But can we get more of a feel-good factor? The quicker, the better. And if some community events can help that'd be brilliant, because who knows when the next time we'll all be back at St James's Park.
Yeah, and we've touched upon it really already with the YouTube channel and all sorts, but fan engagement, communication, these are all things that need to be improved when these suspected new owners come in. Obviously, we've seen improvements with Twitter. Grant Pringle, the new Twitter admin, doing a fantastic job on Twitter. It's nice to see a lot more interaction with the fans on Twitter. The YouTube channels had some improved stuff. I love those behind the scenes videos on a match day, but I still feel like we need to see more. And you think of the trust as well, the supporters trust, stuff like that, the communication with fan bodies and stuff like that. What that needs to be improved. Is there anything else, Lee, that you can think of, or anything on those topics that could be improved even more?
Even if the takeover doesn't happen, you've just seen Lee Charnley on your screen. He's the man at the top. He's the one. He's the boss at St James's Park. Mike Ashley owns the club, yes, but Lee Charnley is the boss at St James's Park. He's at the figurehead, so he has to improve things. Even if we don't get takeover, he has the final say. There's so many things with the communication, the stadium, the training ground. The staff on furlough, that's a joke. Every single us and Norwich are the only ones who haven't changed their mind. Newcastle United have put the staff on furlough. It goes from top to bottom with the club, and it's been like this ever since, probably after a year of Ashley, when things just started to go wrong on and off the field everywhere. And it's a shame because, Sir John Hall and Freddie Shepherd, yes, they did put the club into debt, but at least they communicated with the fans. They told the fans what was happening, why we're doing it. Yes, we're taking this amount out of the bank because we're going to get an Alan Shearer, we're going to get a Faustino Aspria, we're going to get a David Gill, or whatever. They would tell you, they'll communicate with you, whereas we don't have that. And anybody like your age, or I hate to be your age, growing up through Mike Ashley, I know you've got a video coming out about it very shortly, but I would hate being a Newcastle fan under Mike Ashley's regime. I'm lucky enough to have Sir Bobby. I'm lucky to have Kevin Keegan. There's people a lot older than me who've seen even Joe Harvey, Jackie Milburn, who are old now. Small things that you cherish because you don't get many in Newcastle. And then we can at least have a bit of hope and try and progress. And hey, who knows? Maybe win a trophy.
Exactly, Lee. And I think part of it is respecting the people that have played for Newcastle, been involved in Newcastle beforehand. A lot like Johnny said earlier, respecting our history and moving forward as well, because Newcastle wouldn't be the club it is today without the people we've had in the past. And that could be used as an obvious statement, but it's a very true statement as well, I feel like. Johnny, I'll ask the same question to you as I asked to Lee. How could they improve things even more on like the Twitter side of things, YouTube side of things?
I think the YouTube's poor. If I'm being brutally honest, it's far too late to get them to be involved in the game. Ourselves and other channels do a far better job, and we don't have the coverage that they do, in my personal opinion. Twitter, it's okay. Is it brilliant? No, but I don't think there's any pressure from the top to really want fan interaction. Probably not, because Mike Ashley gets a lot of stick. Lee Charnley gets a lot of stick. He probably doesn't want more and more people commenting about the football club, because they probably say a percentage of it's about them, and they're not doing a good job. Like maybe even Lee Marshall probably is not even that bothered anymore, because he's been getting criticism about his role, and he doesn't really have much to say at the football club. Look, if they were really serious about it, they'll have a big meeting when these potential owners come in and say, look, it's not good enough. I can't speak on radio, but it's not good enough. You need to really pull your finger out and do something about it, because it's not good enough. Football's moving so fast that football clubs can't keep up. Really, they need to have 24/7 action of how footballers are living their everyday life now. You want to know what they're having for lunch. You want to know what they've been doing at training. You want to know what they're doing tonight. It's literally like a Sunderland till I die all the time. That's how football clubs are kind of going at the minute. But who knows? I just think the YouTube channel is poor. It really is. The behind the scenes are okay, but they could do so much more. Even just copy other channels. People do it with us. Copy it.
Yeah, I can only agree with that. And you touched upon it there, Johnny. One thing that I'm going to finally touch on before we go is interaction with players and more interaction with the club, because I feel that is a point to do with us and maybe other Newcastle United YouTube channels. We would definitely like more interaction with the club, I feel. I know Lee is strongly opinionated about this. He would definitely like the channel to be able to be even a little bit involved with the club, chat to a player every now and again. Lee, what should they do to improve that? What sort of things should they allow us to do to interact with them, and still keep it, safe? So we can't go asking players about the takeover, for example.
Invite win. Simple as that. Invite win. Doesn't have to be just us. There could be other YouTube channels. There could be other podcast groups. There could be fanzines. Invite them all in. Have a sit down. Think of some ideas. Take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at, I know Burnley, for example, they have a YouTuber that is very much related to Burnley in Visa, and he's related with the club now. He's well in with their social media team and all sorts. So it is possible. Johnny, what's your opinions on that? Just before we go.
I think one of the biggest examples we could have is that Paul has a fantastic relationship with the women's team. His daughter's been involved as a mascot for one of the women's games, and we've asked the club if we can have a member of the women's team, and I can't name people that we've asked, and they've said yes, but they would love to come on and promote the women's channel, but the club has stopped it. Surely it's just the women's channel. I'm not just disrespecting the women's channel, but compared to the first team, we're trying to help them by putting them on the radio show, on the Black and White show, and they won't even let us do that. We're not asking for the world, but just asking a little bit. Sometimes you have to kind of give in a little bit just to help you improve your brand a little bit. It just makes business sense in that point of view. But I'm sure we're not the only channel that have asked for a bit more. I'm sure other channels have, but until maybe a change of ownership, they could, like Lee says, sit down and say, look, this is what we're prepared to do. This is what we're not prepared to do for whatever reasons they've got. But if at least they, like they say, communicate and have their reasons, then you can kind of go, yeah, fair enough, we can understand that. But if we can play by these rules, who knows? Because I don't even think BBC Radio Newcastle get a great deal. I don't think Sky get as much as they would like, and Sky pay billions. BT pay billions. So it's tough.
Yeah, and the final message from me is Stavely, if you're watching, Ruben Brothers, if you're watching, Mohammed bin Salman, if you're watching, let us talk to players, please. All right, that's it from me.
The Black and White Football Show, Sunday 6 to 8 p.m. in association with Newcastle Fans TV on Nova Radio Northeast.